Ajaokuta by itself is an impossible mission.
Ajaokuta Steel Project is located on a 24,000 hectares of land. This edifice was conceived in 1958 and the foundation stone was laid in 1980 by the then President of Nigeria, Alhaji Usman Aliyu Shehu Shagari, GCFR. From the report of the detailed technical audits of the Ajaokuta Steel Plant carried out in 2018, Phase 1 is estimated to be about 95.6% technically ready, projected to produce an estimate of 1.3 million tons of steel per year.
One of the reasons why Ajaokuta cannot work, a blast furnace, once you turn it on, if you turn it off again, you cannot put it back on.
Unfortunately, since the plant was built, it has not produced its first molten steel sheet or flat sheet, but hot rollings of rod and rebars. With over 90% of the needed resources already expended, the question in everyone's mind is, why is the AISM not operational?
The iron content of Nigerian ore is only 33% iron content, whereas the world standard minimum is 66%.
For more than 3 decades, Ajaokuta's 41 plants that include steel, electricity, cement and fertilizer plants have been idle, despite the Soviet-era met facility being 95% complete.
While this massive plant lay dormant, a South Korean company with a similar-sized plant, built a year later by the same Soviet Union engineers, has grown to become one of the 4 largest steel producers in the world, with revenues of about $50 billion a year.
Today, the black man does not have respect. Everything that we consume, we do not produce. When the Chinese come to Nigeria, they come to make profit and take the profit back to their country.
The Ajaokuta Steel was said to have reached 98% completion as far back as 1994, had not produced a single steel till date. The federal government of Nigeria has spent over $10 billion over 34 years and will require another $2 billion or more to complete the remaining 2% of the plan.
The Chinese are here to take over Africa. We are not going to let it happen. Hello everybody, my name is Dr. Caesar Osahene Iyayi. I am your advocate for the industrial manufacturing process to begin in Africa and Nigeria to be the starting point of that industrial manufacturing process. Why am I so focused on industrial manufacturing? It's very simple. The difference between white people and black people is that white people are industrialized. Black people, the world over, are not industrialized. And it is those people, the countries that are industrialized, that can manufacture whatever they want, particularly the weapons of violence. So, if we want life to get better in Nigeria, we have to start the process of industrial manufacturing. That is what I am always focused on. For the rest of my life, that is what I'm going to be talking about. I'm not part of that team of people that go everywhere saying Africa is doomed, Nigeria is finished. I believe that Nigeria is not finished. The best of Nigeria is just ahead of us. If only we can embrace industrial manufacturing. Today, I want to tell you, Nigerians, and other people that are aware of a plant that was built by President Shehu Shagari in his first tenure. He only served one tenure actually, because he was overthrown in the early hours of the second term. He served for 4 full years. And one of his legacies is that he built a plant in Ajaokuta called Ajaokuta Steel Company. I want to tell you why that plant can never work and why the Nigerian government should not continue to pour money into it. So there is good news and there is bad news. First, the good news. The good news is that despite the fact that Ajaokuta cannot work, that will not stop us from industrializing Nigeria. The reason being that you can import iron ingot and billets on the cheap from Russia, from Ukraine, from Australia. It is only $300 per ton. And when you bring that in, you can add the alloys to it, melt it down, and begin your industrial manufacturing process. Why I want to talk about this is that people are under the false impression, very false. It's a wrong premise, wrongly submitted, that if we want to industrialize Nigeria, we have to start by producing steel from iron ore. That is not true. Ajaokuta by itself is an impossible mission. I want to give you 3, 4, 5 reasons why it is not possible. Number one, Ajaokuta Steel Company has what you call a BF, a blast furnace. Blast furnace is different from the electric arc, which the same Shagari, after he realized his mistake in Ajaokuta, went to Alaja to build an electric arc furnace. That is a plant that can function, but it is not economical. Reason being that you have to transport iron ore from a place like Ajaokuta, a very long distance. But the main reason why even Delta Steel Complex, even though that it has an electric arc process, cannot function, is that the iron content of Nigerian ore is only 33% iron content. Whereas the world standard minimum, whether it's in Ukraine or it's in Guinea or it's in Turkey or wherever, or Australia, the minimum is 66%. So imagine if you want to insist that you want to manufacture iron ingot here in Nigeria, you have to do what they call beneficiation. That increases your cost. But let's put that aside. One of the reasons why Ajaokuta cannot work is that a blast furnace, once you turn it on, if you turn it off again, you cannot put it back on. It must run 24/7 every day for perhaps 8-10 years before you dismantle the core plant and refurbish it again. We do not have the technical knowledge. We do not have the ability to generate steady, constant electricity to support such a plant. So that is one reason why Ajaokuta can never work, because the iron content is poor. Yes, it is true that a time will come when the iron in Guinea, in Australia, will be exhausted, and then it will make economic sense to come to the other iron deposits, like the one we have in Ajaokuta. that is only 33% iron content. I was talking to some people who have knowledge in industrial processing of iron, and they said we have a deposit in one northern state that the iron content is 70-something percent. I said, that is an imagination. Let's assume it is true. You still have to worry about how you can do the logistics of transporting iron ore from such a distance in the north to the only one that can function, which is Alaja, which is in Delta State. The cost alone of moving that material is already going to be beyond the cost of buying iron ingot or iron billet at $300 per ton. So you see that for the meantime, we have to put the manufacturing of iron ingot and iron billet from iron ore at a full stop, so that we can take our resources and direct it into a channel where we can import iron ingots, use our gas, our natural gas, which is already available, bring in a plant that can generate electricity, and a plant that can manufacture different things, and they will start the process of industrial manufacturing in Nigeria. It is difficult for people to really conceptualize, but if you give yourself the leeway, you should be able to figure it out. It's not rocket science that if you can import something for $300 already processed, it's no longer raw material, it's now iron form. All you have to do is to find a way to melt it, add other alloys to it, and you can manufacture whatever you want. Insofar as you have electricity, insofar as you have the necessary machinery, insofar as you have the expertise that understand how to manufacture things. What is important is that something is being made here in Nigeria. Why is Trump so worried about returning the factories that left America to America? They left. They outsourced everything to China and to other countries. And now it is beginning to haunt them. And they are beginning to discover that Americans cannot make ship anymore. They are beginning to discover that they are importing over $780 billion worth of industrial manufacturing things. They are importing over $650 billion worth of materials for household consumption. Nothing again is made in America. Trump realized that there's an error there. They have exported their jobs to China in the name of entrepreneurs who are greedy, seeking very huge profit. So they are sources to China because China has cheap labor. What happens to you? Whatever you do, if you stop doing it for 10 years, by the time you go back there to do it, you see that it is very difficult for you to master. Human beings will learn to do things better by doing it every day, repeatedly. So, what's the second reason? The second reason why you cannot manufacture iron at Ajaokuta is that the blast furnace requires coke, not coal, coke. You need 8 tons of coke to produce 1 ton of iron. We do not have coke in Nigeria. So first, you have to import coke. By the time you add the cost of 8 tons of coke, it's already more than the cost of 1 ton of iron ingot. So why bother? It doesn't make sense. If we want to be wise, we should just set that aside. and focus on what is possible. What are the other problems? Electricity. There's a plant that was put there to generate about 20 megawatts, which will serve the plant. It's not working. Every day they say they don't have enough gas. That plant ought to be working so that whatever is coming out from there will add to our national grid. But it's not working. What else is our problem there at Ajaokuta? From Itakpe to Ajaokuta plant, there's quite a distance. Somebody was telling me it's not long, it's just 40 kilometers. But do you even have the mining capability? Do you know how much it will cost to start mining iron at Itakpe? We bought some machinery and put there. They are not functioning. It will cost you more money to buy the mining plants than to just get some funds, import iron ingots, take it to Alaja, where you have an electric arc, and you melt iron, add other alloys to it, and start the industrial manufacturing process. Nigeria is a multi-ethnic country with so many religions. So there's always politics. The moment you start, let's manufacture iron, let's manufacture finished products in Ajaokuta, people in the north will say, these people, they want to gain industrial manufacturing advantage over us in the north. The way I look at it is this. There is LPG, which you get from fractionating crude oil. That's what we used to cook. Liquefied petroleum gas. That's too expensive. I think that one at the moment is selling for about 1,250 naira per kilogram. That will not work. It's too expensive. And then we have natural gas. If you have the pipeline passing through your state, you can always start a factory right there. Only if we can get the authorities to support Nigerian entrepreneurs, just the way the Chinese government is supporting Chinese entrepreneurs. We need people to support Nigerian entrepreneurs, whether here in the south, or in the middle belt, or in the north, or in the east, or in the west. We need to generate jobs by manufacturing finished products here in Nigeria, everywhere in Nigeria. Once the gas comes out from the ground and you pipe it, can go anywhere in Nigeria. All we need to do is to start thinking about it. So I want you to disabuse your mind, remove all these efforts we are trying to put into making Ajaokuta Steel Complex to function. It can never function. It is not possible. But that's the bad news. Like I said before, the good news is that you can import iron ingot and iron billet already produced $300 per ton. And when you bring it in here, it's for you to have a plant that can generate power from our natural gas. I saw a company, they said the company is a virtual pipeline for Nigeria, and it's called Greenville also. They go to Port Harcourt, through the cryogenic process, they liquefy natural gas and put it in a vehicle and transport it to an intermediate station where they can now convert it again into usable gas and take to companies where they can use it. That makes sense because when you do cryogenic processing, you are able to turn air into liquid. It makes sense because if you turn natural gas into liquid form, that means that you can transport more. The cost of transportation will be reduced. So what I'm saying is that in the interim, Before you can have pipelines all over Nigeria, any state, whether in the north, whether in the middle belt, east or west, wherever, or in the south, if you don't have gas pipelines passing through your state, you can have either a CNG, which is compressed natural gas, or LNG, which is liquefied natural gas, transported to your state, where you can now set up a plant that can generate electricity. With that plant, you can add a manufacturing plant that can use that electricity to melt the element. You bring in expatriates that will stay with you and use that to continue the manufacturing process. You think it's difficult? It is easy. It is only difficult in our mind. Our mind deceives us to make us think that it is difficult. So where everybody is looking at Nigeria and they see problems, I look at Nigeria and I see opportunities. The question is, why is the leadership of Nigeria not waking up to tap into this industrial manufacturing process? Why can't they encourage Nigerian entrepreneurs the way the Chinese are encouraging the entrepreneurs to venture outside their land and come to Africa, come to Nigeria? All the industrial manufacturing process going on are taking place in the hands of the Chinese, in the hands of the Indians, and some Lebanese. Nigerians are not doing anything. Only a man like Doyi, remember the Doyi group some years ago? I think they were in Kwara State. They did not get any assistance from government. Perhaps that patriarch is late already, because I have not been hearing of the Doyi group for some time. That was a family that had the foresight to think of industrial manufacturing. It's never too late. Anytime you wake up to realize your problem, that is the beginning of the day for you. Let today be the beginning of the day for Nigeria. Let the leadership of Nigeria wake up. It's not enough to do roads. It's not enough to do bridges. Because when you manufacture finished products, you reduce your imports. You reduce the dollar that you are going to send out. You create jobs. You earn taxes. You expand the economy. And you give Nigeria a sense of confidence. That is what we need. We need people in government to wake up. You want to be president. You want to be governor. You are there now. Wake up and allow Nigeria to rise. Just the way Trump is fighting to bring back industries into America. You start fighting to get Nigerians, not just Chinese, because when the Chinese come to Nigeria, they come to make profit and take the profit back to their country. Nigerians, if they make profit because this is our route, the money will remain in Nigeria. That is how you expand your economy. Our leaders will start to wake up and realize that the future of Nigeria is in our hands. Our destiny is in our hands, not in the hands of foreign countries. It's up to us to realize that we can do all things if only we make up our mind to do it. I want you to know that anywhere you come from, as long as you are an African, as long as you are a black man, you are an African. Today, the black man does not have respect because everything that we consume, we do not produce. We are at the mercy of Indians, we are at the mercy of Chinese, we are at the mercy of Japanese, we are at the mercy of the Americans, we are at the mercy of everybody. Life ought not to be like that. I see them, they bring a Chinese company to do all sorts of infrastructure because they believe that Nigerians do not have the capability to do it. If Ajaokuta employ Indians to work for him, why can't Nigerian entrepreneurs, the ones that are serious, be encouraged to get into all this manufacturing? Let the Chinese work for us. We have the potential, the capability to get the Chinese to work for us as our employees. This is our land. And when they work for us, the profit that we will make will remain in Nigeria here. When the Chinese work for you, as they are earning the naira, they are converting it into dollar, putting pressure on the dollar so they can send it home. This is not their country. This is our country. We have the right to be here. We have the ability to do something about this. I'm challenging our government to wake up and support our entrepreneurs so that we can begin the process of industrial manufacturing. Next time when I talk to you, I'm going to tell you why it is urgent for us to start. I'm going to emphasize and bring it to your attention that the Chinese are here to take over Africa. We are not going to let it happen. I will continue to sing the song. I will continue to shout. I'm Dr. Caesar Osaheni Yayi, your advocate for the industrial manufacturing process to begin in Nigeria. Thank you. See you again next time. Ajaokuta by itself is an impossible mission.
Ajaokuta Steel Project is located on 24,000 hectares of land. This edifice was conceived in 1958 and the foundation stone was laid in 1980 by the then President of Nigeria, Alhaji Usman Aliyu Shehu Shagari, GCFR. From the report of the detailed technical audits of the Ajaokuta Steel Plant carried out in 2018, Phase 1 is estimated to be about 95.6% technically ready, projected to produce an estimate of 1.3 million tons of steel per year.
One of the reasons why Ajaokuta cannot work, a blast furnace, once you turn it on, if you turn it off again, you cannot put it back on.
Unfortunately, since the plant was built, it has not produced its first molten steel sheet or flat sheet, but hot rollings of rod and rebars. With over 90% of the needed resources already expended, the question in everyone's mind is, why is the AISM not operational?
The iron content of Nigerian ore is only 33% iron content, whereas the world standard minimum is 66%.
For more than 3 decades, Ajaokuta's 41 plants that include steel, electricity, cement and fertilizer plants have been idle, despite the Soviet-era met facility being 95% complete.
While this massive plant lay dormant, a South Korean company with a similar-sized plant, built a year later by the same Soviet Union engineers, has grown to become one of the 4 largest steel producers in the world, with revenues of about $50 billion a year.
Today, the black man does not have respect. Everything that we consume, we do not produce. When the Chinese come to Nigeria, they come to make profit and take the profit back to their country.
The Ajaokuta Steel was said to have reached 98% completion as far back as 1994, had not produced a single steel till date. The federal government of Nigeria has spent over $10 billion over 34 years and will require another $2 billion or more to complete the remaining 2% of the plan.
Chinese are here to take over Africa. We are not going to let it happen.